to show you what I am harvesting in my garden. A new variety of cucumber for me this year is the striped Armenian cucumber, and it has quickly become one of my favorites. It produces a ton in the garden, and I have it in the ground beds and the raised beds, and in both areas it did beautifully. You can even wear the striped Armenian cucumber. It's in this season's lookbook. Here are my yellow onions. Once the tops fall down, you want to wait 2 weeks and then you harvest them, because within those 2 weeks, that's when they gain a lot of their size because they're still growing on the bottom. I'll pull one out so you can see here. It's hard to pull out because those roots are still going. So see that? This yellow onion's called Walla Walla, and Walla Walla gets really huge, so this still has a good 2 weeks of grow time. This area is where my red onions were, and I already went ahead and seeded some peas, because peas you can only seed in the beginning of the season and late in the season because they love to grow when it's cooler, even though we're having a really hot September so far. The carrots just keep becoming a smaller and smaller bunch here because I just keep digging them as we use them, and there's still some that are small, there's some that are big, and they're really nice. This variety is called the Sugar Snacks. Jason's eating broccoli, so let's take a look over here.
Yep.
Ooh,
this is like
good.
when they're the best.
Yeah.
Once they start getting a little bigger like that, they're not as
That's
good.
because, so over here, we've been having rainy days, so a couple broccoli just went ahead and seeded out here. So this year is my first year growing sour Mexican gherkin, or Mexican sour gherkin. Whatever. It's one of those, but that is the variety name. Today, I have a surprise, and the surprise is awesome because there's little gherkins on here, and they look like a little miniature watermelon, and they actually have a little bit more of like that cucumber flavor with a little bit of a sourness to them. The last time you guys saw this raised bed, I was harvesting potatoes. After I harvested those potatoes, I went ahead and I seeded 2 different batches of beans. Just a regular green bean, bush bean, and then the dragon's tongue, which is a flatter bean, kind of like a pole bean, an Italian pole bean, but it has more flavor like the green bean. So I just did the 2 varieties so we have more beans to eat, because they are like little snacks here in the garden. And in between, woo! I'm gonna fly away today in these polka dots. And every day too, I just go through and I just start picking any weeds too. Weeds are such a huge thing right now this time of year. It's so hard to keep up. We've been getting a ton of rain, so I have been really battling to keep up with that. Holding the red geraniums. I've kept them all season, planted them up for the parade model. We did window boxes there because I want to add a little pop of color. But you know, these are always my favorite, the fall flowering kale. They're starting to get pretty big, so I'm spreading them out so that way they can keep growing. They get actually really big. You keep separating them, it allows them to keep growing bigger. Once September 1st rolls around, I start letting a few select planters go every week because I have so many and I want less to take care of because now I have been harvesting so much with the veggie stand. So this is one I'm starting to let go here. And then over here, follow me, we've got the melon beds. We haven't harvested any watermelons yet, but if you want to take a look and see, they are so huge. So in this garden here are our cantaloupes. We've already been harvesting and eating. Oh, there's a kitty. Bring him over here. There's a mouse. Go grab him. Go grab Cupcake. Look at all these little holes. See, these are the mice. That's from the mice. So this here is one of my many pickle batches. And I usually can them, but this year we've been selling them at the veggie stand and they've been selling out. So I just keep picking and selling, and I figure, you know, we'll just have to go to the grocery store for pickles this year. So here we got some good pickles coming, if you can see, and All my stuff is pesticide free. As you can tell, the leaves aren't perfect, so there are going to be some bugs, but here's a nicer size, bigger pickle. You really don't want pickles any bigger than this, maybe just a little bit bigger. It would be okay, but if they get too big, they end up becoming too seedy, and that seed actually is a little tough, so it never tastes good even if you pickle them. So let's see.
I want to go in the house.
Pickle. Good
Go ahead.
I got more melons over here. These ones are Jason's favorite, the honeydews.
Oh yeah.
And there's some really large ones, but they're not ready yet. With melons, you know that they're ready when the stem actually looks like it's starting to detach by itself. This patch here is some of my pumpkins. My pumpkins are really early this year. And because we had such a hot summer, that forces them to grow faster. So I'm gonna start picking some of mine to go ahead and decorate with, but there's still a lot that aren't ready. So I want to talk about Jason's favorite tomato this year, Matt's Cherry Wild. Jason loves cherry tomatoes, and sun sugars have always been his favorite. But this year I tried a new tomato. It's not new, but it's new for me. And it's called Matt's Cherry Wild. It's a very small tomato. It's smaller than even the sun sugars, and it's super sweet. And Jason has said, Jason.
What do I say now?
No, what do you say about Matt's Cherry Wild? You love
Well,
tomatoes.
I love them. They produce a ton. I love how they grow in little clusters. They're sweeter than the sun sugars, which is not a lot of people expect that. They think that that's the sweetest one.
Yeah.
So these are definitely my favorite, just because every time I come out to the garden and I want some, they're always there. With the sun sugars, there's not any there right now. I gotta wait a couple days for them. And they get a real dark red too. That's when you know they're sweet.
So I'm never a huge fan of raw tomato, just like eating them right out of the garden. But one that I found that I actually really love the flavor of is an heirloom tomato called Pink Berkeley. And this one's ready. So the one thing that I don't like about it is that it's not crack resistant, but the flavor of the Pink Berkeley is just absolutely amazing. Another one of my favorites this year, and this actually isn't one of Jason's favorites, this is one of mine, I think because it's more mellow, are the artesian tomatoes. The artesian tomatoes are smaller, and they actually taste really good on salads, real fresh, and they actually taste really good grilled as well. Every year I grow the ornamental corn because it's just a beautiful backdrop in the garden. I love the height of it, the color of it, and as it gets cooler, it turns brown, so it adds the perfect fall touch as the backdrop in the gardens. A few of these plat gardens I really dedicated to growing pumpkins because I wanted to try many different varieties this year. And if I see them all together, they all pollinate together and become the same pumpkin. Here is the raspberry patch, our favorite area. You very, very rarely see any red berries or golden berries because the kids eat them right away. Well, the kids, me and Jason. So we all love them. The Brussels sprouts are looking super good, super healthy. The further you go down, the bigger they get. And they'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. The Roma tomatoes I had staked in the cages, but there's so much wind out here and they got so heavy that the cages literally bent over, which is fine because it helps them trail over the garden rather than laying against the wood. And they are producing really good, so that's all that matters. I really want to show my succulent container here. Everyone associates succulents with just summertime, but with it starting to get cooler now, the showiest container in the garden are my succulent containers. Look how beautiful this is doing. It's flowering, it's bright, it's colorful, it looks lush. There's just so much bright, vibrant greens, and it just looks prettier now than it did in summertime. This cantaloupe plant has been doing amazing. It's become a monster at the end of this raised bed here. It's actually producing cantaloupes too right now. There's more Brussels and cabbage over here. Those are a second batch. And a second batch of onions and some cut flowers here, the straw flowers. Another batch of carrots. Here are the strawberry raised beds. They have filled in tremendously. They were so bare before that I had room to plant and grow some herbs here, and these strawberries have really filled in, so by next year I won't even be able to grow anything else here other than these guys. And as you can tell, there's another garden there. Here's where I did the asparagus, which takes 2 years to kind of produce, but I'm gonna actually tear these out, put them somewhere else, and I'm gonna take all of these strawberry shoots here and plant them into this garden over here, so we have another bed of strawberries. Jason's finding a lot, which means that these berries here are not June bearing. June bearing strawberries only produce in June. These must be everbearing. Everbearing strawberries produce all season long. This year, another ornamental corn variety that was my first time growing is this broom corn. The reason why I grew broom corn was because I loved what I read about it, and that is that people use this for fall time decoration because it gets a broom looking top.